You're listening to the Spark Radio Network, internet radio like you've never heard before. Innovation, creativity, and imagination are all said to begin with a spark. So fasten your seatbelt and take the ride of your life and listen for the spark.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
Most writers and radio show hosts know that to connect with your fans, you need to do more than just write books or record the latest podcasts. There are many different elements that go into forming an online platform, but there are also many hidden traps. To make matters worse, solid advice on how to survive the muddy waters is scarce. In the book Hidden Traps, I talk about some of the important issues of working with an online platform, highlighting traps that could put your physical or internet security at risk or be harmful to your reputation. Are your social media posts just links with a few disjointed words, making you look like someone who can't complete a sentence? Did your new website cost you more than you anticipated? Are you leaking your personal contact details across the web without even knowing it? Then you need Hidden Traps. Hidden Traps is now available in paperback and ebook from a variety of retailers, including Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Kobo. Visit blackwolfpublications.com for more details.
If you're 85 or younger, would you like peace of mind and comfort for your family? We're Final Expense Direct with an urgent message for you. The average funeral today costs over $8,000, but the most you'll get from government benefits is $255. How will your family pay the difference? We can help. Our senior plans start as low as just $1 a day and pay up to $30,000 for a funeral and other final expenses. Peace of mind is easy. There's no medical exam. You'll have lifetime coverage, and your plan can't be canceled as long as you pay your premiums. Call now for free information about our senior plans. Answer a few simple questions and receive approval right on the phone. Plus, call right now and we'll give you a discount prescription card for free. Call 800-553-8687. That's 800-553-8687. Again, 800-553-8687. 687.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
Here's George Foreman with InventHelp.
Hi, I'm George Foreman. Do you have an idea for a new product or invention? People ask me all the time, George, how do I get my idea in front of companies? How do I get a patent? What do I do next? Do you have the same questions? I'll tell you like I'll tell them all. Call my friends at InventHelp.
Call InventHelp today for free information. InventHelp has been helping inventors for more than 30 years and has sales offices nationwide. InventHelp can submit your invention to companies who are interested in receiving new ideas. If you have an idea and want to try to patent it and submit it to companies, you should call InventHelp today for free information.
Listen, I can't guarantee a company will be interested in your idea, but I believe every inventor deserves the opportunity to step into the ring and take their best shot. Put InventHelp in your corner.
To get your free inventor's information, call 1-800-353-6490. That's 1-800-353-6490. Again, 1-800-353-6490.
American way, and we built this country called the USA, and we fly our flag cause we're proud and free, we're Americans. Red, white, and blue is our way of life. Never back down from a challenge or a fight. Nature provides, God gives the rights, we're Americans. We fish the waters and we hunt the lands. We forge the steel with our own two hands. With what we've got, we do the best we can. We're Americans.
This is Rio of Madison Rising, and you're listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
It's time now for the Conservative Curmudgeon Radio Show. Now, here's Grouchy.
All right, good evening, everybody. Glad to be back with you. Seymour, what are you doing? Put that down. Yes, down, put it down. Yeah, let her go. Now hold up the window. Hold up the window pane. There we go. Okay, now everything's right. Welcome aboard. We got a few things to talk about tonight, as usual. We're going to start with the one that's been on everybody's mind for pretty much since this weekend, Charlottesville. Yeah, I know, big shocking thing, right? Charlottesville talk. Well, I did something a little different. We're gonna talk about what happened and possibly why it happened, and we're gonna talk about responsibility, and we're gonna talk about rights, and we're gonna talk about what's wrong, and we're gonna talk about what is the root behind it all. Now, as made evident by the last election cycle, the quote-unquote alt-right they're just pure poison, absolute poison. They don't have anything in common with a constitutional conservative. Those who make up the alt-right are leftover types looking for a place to belong. Racism binds them together in a sick brotherhood, and they're proponents of a singularly white heritage and promote a quote-unquote pure America, one where whites dominate. They're nothing but racists. And like most racists, they're hung up on skin color as the defining factor of their hate-filled lives. It's both sad and pathetic. And until such a mindset turns into actual aggression and desire to limit others or worse, hurt them, that's when it's not sad and pathetic anymore. On Friday night, last Friday night, alt-right white supremacists gathered in Charlottesville for their quote-unquote Unite the Right rally. Now, this is something we're going to stop right here. We're going to address this to begin with. They're using this term, Unite the Right, when they're so far right that calling them alt-right is even wrong. They should just be called the wrong, not the right. But they had their rally, and it centered around the city of Charlottesville's decision to remove a Robert E. Lee statue from a park. Now, what prompted the move to suddenly take this statue from the park? Okay, here's where I went to places that most people didn't. I actually found a couple of residents of Charlottesville and got some backstory on this issue. Okay, and what I've been told is that Charlottesville, as you can imagine, it's a college town, University of Virginia, is run largely by Democrats in elected positions. Well, this Democrat city council decided to put this panel together. First they thought about just removing the statue, but then they convened this panel to do a study of the impact. And they wanted, they took like 3 months to do this thing. And then they were to report back to the city council with their findings. And the city council, I'm sure, was thinking that once they put this panel together, that this would be their way of saying, well, this was the panel's recommendation. We didn't do this. Blah, 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 blah. Well, it backfired on them. The panel came back, and their recommendation was to not remove the statue of Robert E. Lee, but instead to add to this monument's area of the park with other monuments, so that history would be remembered for what it really was, and that you could have multiple viewpoints on how it's looked at, how it's looked upon, how it's viewed from different people and different cultures. They didn't recommend trying to wipe out history or erase it. They wanted to enhance the story. Well, the city council took their findings and discarded them in disgust and held their own vote and voted to remove the Robert E. Lee statue. Now, you can agree with their decision. You can disagree with their decision. That's your prerogative. Just know what you're looking at and why you're looking at it. That's all I'm getting at here. Okay? So back to our quote unquote Unite the Right rally. The hatred that flows through the alt-right is larger than any statue in any town USA. It's the kind of hate that seemed like a good idea to cowardly, impressionable minds as they carry their tiki torches in the dark, battling off Virginia mosquitoes more than fighting some sort of ideological battle. Now, in fairness to these repugnant thinking, poison-minded, narrow-sighted bigots, when they held their march Friday night, it was peaceful. They carried their little $5 tiki torches that I'm sure the local Home Depot was more than happy to sell out their stock of to them. They marched through the UVA campus. They did not turn over trash cans. They did not vandalize buildings. They did not find students walking around to torment or beat. It was peaceful. Does that mean I agree with what they were doing? No, it doesn't. I'm only half white. How could I possibly agree with people that hate half of me? On Saturday, the alt-right were met with counter-protesters of the Antifa, Black Lives Matter, and or a general anti-racist variety. And as one might expect, the situation turned violent. Before Heather Heyer was mowed down by a car driven by, well, let's call him what he is. He's a domestic terrorist at this point. His name is James Alex Fields. People were already shedding blood from much less minor, but no less hateful clashes. So in the wake of the bloodshed and murder, who do we blame? Because you have to point a finger at somebody, right? I mean, isn't that what we've always been about? We don't wait for evidence anymore. We know Fields was driving the car. As for the murder of Heyer, he's guilty. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Now, is he going to say that he was coerced into doing it? Is he going to try to plead some kind of diminished capacity and go for the affirmative defense? I don't know. Time will tell. Time will tell. But we know James Alex Fields was driving the car. We know he mowed down Heather Heyer and killed her. We could point a finger here in this particular act. Should we point a finger at a media that salivates over potential newsworthy events? Should we point a finger to a Democratic Party who hates middle America, where most of these racist thugs originate? Should we point a finger to a president who isn't willing to call out white supremacy by itself, No, 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 no. And last question, should we blame just the alt-right? Now, it seems like an easy answer. It seems that way. And again, I do not condone their message. I do not like it. And much to the same tone that Ted Cruz took when he suggested the other night that it's a shame that they love Cuban Americans so much. I forget the exact line he tweeted out, but it was quite good. I fall into the same boat. I am Hispanic and I am Native American. And I was raised by the Hispanic side of my family, so that is the side that I most relate with. Now, if we're honest with ourselves, the alt-right has been a problem for a while. Their ranks swell with the stench that they put out. They propelled one specific candidate toward the GOP nomination, or did they? Could Trump have won the GOP nomination without the alt-right? Do we really think there's that many alt-right out there that he couldn't have won without them? Okay, just some thoughts. It's possible. It's possible they are. I'd like to think that their numbers are actually quite small. It would bother me tremendously to think that there were insurmountable numbers of these small-minded idiots in our country. But for the sake of argument, let's say that there were enough and that they propelled Trump to the GOP nomination. Okay? For the sake of argument, we're going to take this tact. Okay? So we're going to recognize this as a fact, whether it is or not, it's just for this point here, and point to it when these types of tragedies occur. I really hope they won't happen again, but you and I both know they will. Have you checked the level of racial animosity in America right now? Even more so than before the election, the crumbling American right is at its defining moment. Either its members will denounce what it sees as a representation of the whole, or it will remain silent, watch those Fox News roundtables, and shake its collective head at the bad news out of Charlottesville and continue on its way. There were too many hot takes to count on Saturday in the wake of the tragedy that brought Heather Heyer's death. Former Red State writer who's now at National Review, Dan McLaughlin, hit it spot on. He basically said the alt-right is the enemy. And he's right. They are. They are. They are the enemy of decency. They are the enemy of what our country was founded upon and stands for. They're the enemy of what we know to be good and right. And at the same time, isn't Antifa? Isn't Black Lives Matter? I say yes. I say yes, they all bear responsibility. And I'll say this also. I would be willing to bet that there are members of the alt-right, Antifa, and Black Lives Matter who join their groups not to do violence, but to protest for what they believe in. And each and every one of those groups has the right to do that, as long as they do it legally. I don't condone the message of any of them. But I will stand up for their rights, because that's what the right is about. That's what being a conservative is about. That's what being a limited government, constitutional loving, God-fearing American is about. True freedom of speech is stepping up to the microphone and having your say. And when you're done, you step aside and you keep your mouth shut while the person that thinks the complete opposite of you has their say. That's true freedom of speech. Trying to get people to shut up because you don't like their thoughts being expressed is not what America is about. You have to be smarter than these idiots. And that's not really hard to do. Whether it's alt-right, Antifa, Black Lives Matter. You know, Antifa shows up wherever they feel like, no permits, sticks, chains, whatever, weapons in hand, pipes. I saw pictures of the guy with the lead pipe. And they'll goad anybody they think they can goad into a fight, or they'll pick a fight. Black Lives Matter, chanting as they marched with Al Sharpton, what do we want? Dead cops. When do we want them? Now. Or pigs in a blanket, fry them like bacon. Can we use James Alex Fields to condemn every person that has an alt-right belief? If we do, then does not every hate group deserve the same? Should not every BLM member be considered violent racist just like alt-right because one of their people attacked somebody, or that they were chanting for dead cops? We're not supposed to judge all Muslims by the act of a lone wolf terrorist. Should we judge alt-right based on the actions of James Alex Fields? Maybe. But if we're going to do it, let's be consistent in what we do and how we do it. Maybe that gives you pause for a little concern. Maybe it should. I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'm here to make you think. Declaring that alt-right is a poison and an enemy of the American people, an enemy of conservatism and Christianity. Declaring this does not negate the other poisonous tribes which also represent a threat to regular Americans. But their representative didn't ram a vehicle into a crowd of people in Charlottesville, did they? Now, do we have a problem? I mean, this all happened while the president was on a quote-unquote working vacation. The First Lady first tweeted about what happened in Charlottesville about an hour after it happened. The president tweeted about an hour after her. So about 2 hours passed before President Trump condemned all the violence, all the hatred, and all the bigotry. Now, I'm not saying that he did the right thing. I'm not saying he did the wrong thing. I'm trying to remember very, very purposefully that it's not my job to judge. Charlottesville happened because racists chose to gather, and one of its members took it upon himself to express his hatred through murder. It's unacceptable. It isn't conservatism, and it's not what America is all about. Now, the regular, quote-unquote, right, if we refuse to clean house, then maybe we deserve to crumble as a political edge. Or maybe we clean house and show the left how to clean house. And we leave all these poison-minded idiots sitting at home, not taking part, or rethinking their mindset and coming to the fact that what they're doing isn't helpful. Whether their views are politically left or politically right, being an extremist is unhelpful to what you think you're supporting. President Trump, like I said, he denounced all the hate groups, all the violence, all the bigotry. But that wasn't enough for some people. People like the NAACP's Sherilyn Ifill. That wasn't good enough. While on MSNBC, Ifill demanded that President Trump denounce quote-unquote white supremacist groups. But within 2 breaths of her own demand, she also stated that if he did denounce white supremacists, that she already knows he wouldn't mean it. Now, talk about taking your own credibility and flushing it down the toilet. Can somebody explain that stance to me? I demand that you tell me you like my cooking, but even if you tell me you like it, I know you don't. What the hell? Come on. And while we're talking about denouncing one group or another, where were all the resounding denouncements of BLM when they were chanting, what do we want, dead cops, when do we want them now, and pigs in a blanket, fry them like bacon? I mean, where were they? You're talking about wanting people dead who risk their lives to protect you. How is that any less of a domestic terrorist act? Granted, it's not running somebody over with a car, but tell me how that's less hatred filled. Tell me how that's less bigoted. Now, this part is important. It doesn't matter if it's alt-right, neo-Nazis, BLM, Antifa, or any other group. Like I said before, you do have the right to assemble peacefully and spout your vitriol. I don't have to agree with your message to acknowledge that you have the right to express yourselves. And in this context, I don't support the actions or messages of any of those groups. This all relates to Charlottesville. Again, what we know is that James Alex Fields is the man who murdered a woman, Heather Heyer, by running her over with his car. He is a member of the alt-right. The alt-right is a group who applied for a parade permit in Charlottesville and were granted said permit. They are also the group whose member escalated the situation into violence. James Alex Fields is responsible for his actions. Is it possible that the alt-right is at least complicit or even equally responsible for the acts of Fields? Did they recruit him and ask him to be the martyr? Sure, it's possible. But before the tinfoil gets wrapped too tight, I want to see proof before I point that finger. I don't agree with the message that alt-right puts out. Again, as a multiracial person, how could I? I'm sure they're about as hospitable to my Hispanic and Native American roots as I am to their disgusting message of hatred and bigotry. But I do respect and acknowledge that they have the right to assemble peaceably and express their beliefs. They're a group of people that are very confused and think that they represent the political right. How do I know this? Well, because I'm the political right, and they don't represent me. I'm a conservative by nature and nurture, someone who believes in limited government, equality and opportunity, not outcome, someone who believes in what our founders created when they sacrificed everything in order to create it, a global beacon of freedom. As the man said, a republic, if you can keep it. We're at the bottom of the hour, folks. We got to take a little commercial break. When we come back, we're going to continue on, push through the rest of everything. Stay tuned.
Oh, but ain't that America? For you and me, ain't that America? Something to see, baby. Ain't that America? Home of the free, yeah.
Everyone loves liberty. Our rights come from God, not the government. So why are you letting other people tell you what's best for your health care? Exercise your freedom with Liberty Health Share. Liberty Health Share is a community of people who voluntarily share one another's medical costs. Liberty Health Share is founded on the idea that most people truly want to help one another. Healthcare sharing allows members to do just that as a true community that supports one another in times of need. Liberty believes people should make decisions for themselves and their families. Members are able to take back the freedom to make their own decisions about their health care. Freedom from guilt or doubt about how your money is used. You have the freedom to direct your health care, not to be dictated to by bureaucrats. Stop letting others tell you what to do and join a community of like-minded people. Exercise your freedom. Join Liberty Health Share and take back the control of your health care while helping those around you. Call Liberty at 855-58-LIBERTY. Again, that's 855-58-LIBERTY for more information, or you can check them out at libertyhealthshare.org. Again, that's libertyhealthshare.org.
Most writers and radio show hosts know that to connect with your fans, you need to do more than just write books or record the latest podcasts. There are many different elements that go into forming an online platform, but there are also many hidden traps. To make matters worse, solid advice on how to survive the muddy waters is scarce. In the book Hidden Traps, I talk about some of the important issues of working with an online platform, highlighting traps that could put your physical or internet security at risk, or be harmful to your reputation. Are your social media posts just links with a few disjointed words, making you look like someone who can't complete a sentence? Did your new website cost you more than you anticipated? Are you leaking your personal contact details across the web without even knowing it? Then you need Hidden Traps. Hidden Traps is now available in paperback and ebook from a variety of retailers, including Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Kobo. Visit blackwolfpublications.com for more details.
If you're 85 or younger, would you like peace of mind and comfort for your family? We're Final Expense Direct with an urgent message for you. The average funeral today costs over $8,000, but the most you'll get from government benefits is $255. How will your family pay the difference? We can help. Our senior plans start as low as just $1 a day and pay up to $30,000 for a funeral and other final expenses. Peace of mind is easy. There's no medical exam. You'll have lifetime coverage, and your plan can't be canceled as long as you pay your premiums. Call now for free information about our senior plans. Answer a few simple questions and receive approval right on the phone. Plus, call right now and we'll give you a discount prescription card for free. Call 800-553-8687. That's 800-553-8687. Again, 800-553-8687.
Oh, but ain't that America? You and me. Ain't that America? Something to see, baby. Ain't that America? Home of the free, yeah.
All right, welcome back. We talked about Charlottesville for the first half hour. I told you what the president was doing while it happened, little working vacation going on, which is what actually caused him to take about 2 hours to reply, because we know he's usually a little more hip to Twitter than that. You know, he gets in pretty quick. Like it or not, that's him. But here's what he was actually doing while everything was breaking loose in Charlottesville. President Trump signed into law a bill providing over $2 billion to open new Veterans Affairs Department medical facilities and fund care for veterans seeking medical care outside of the government system. This bill will ensure that veterans continue to have the ability to see the doctor of their choice, Trump said during a press conference at the bill's signing. You're going to have immediate medical care for our veterans, he said. The legislation, which passed the House unanimously, provides funding for veterans who seek treatment from a private doctor in certain cases. It also allows the Veterans Affairs Department to lease 28 new facilities around the country in an attempt to expand access to government-provided care. That makes it a compromise in the larger debate between conservative and liberal proponents of VA reform. Now, Dan Caldwell, policy director for the conservative Concerned Veterans for America, said, "We're grateful President Trump is taking decisive action to ensure veterans using the choice program won't see lapses in their care due to a lack of funding. Unfortunately, this bill took far too long to get to the president's desk and is $1.8 billion more expensive than it needed to be." Well, that's saying a whole lot considering it's a $2 billion bill. Caldwell's mention of $1.8 billion is a reference to the money authorized for the new VA facilities, which CVA opposed. I gotcha. Some of these leases may very well be needed, but authorizing them at this time could lead to wasted resources that could otherwise be used to better serve veterans, Caldwell said. More liberal veterans groups worry that the money spent subsidizing care from private doctors represents a first step towards privatizing the VA. You ain't seen nothing yet if you send people to the private sector, Rick Weidman, legislative director of the Vietnam Veterans of America, said in December. Trump's team maintains that won't happen. Fears of privatization are simply unfounded, VA Secretary Shulkin wrote in a July op-ed. President Trump is dedicated to maintaining a strong VA and will not allow VA to be privatized on our watch. What we do want is a VA system that is even stronger and better than it is today. Well, I think we can all get behind that, right? I mean, you know, we owe our veterans so much. And they really, most of them, don't ask for anything. Some of them ask for something. And such a small number abuse the veteran system. Which is, I mean, they make it very hard to abuse it, but you can do it. If you're committed, you can do it. You can beat any government system if you want to, if you're committed to doing it. But the CVA hinted they still hope for future reforms. What we saw during this process was a preview of how opponents of veterans' health care choice will behave in upcoming months as Congress works on broader reform, Caldwell said Saturday. We will continue holding elected officials accountable for standing in the way of veterans' best interests, and we will advocate for legislation that will provide veterans with permanent access to private sector care. We agree with Secretary Shulkin that the Veterans Choice Program is not the end state of veterans' health care choice. Good for you, sir. Good for you. And this is how it should be, folks. Our veterans should not have to sit around on their thumbs and wait 2, 3, 6 months to see a doctor. That's ridiculous. That's absolutely ridiculous. I have no problem. I don't understand, though, why we don't simply move to a Veterans Care card, much like you flash your Blue Cross Blue Shield card when you go to the doctor. And if a veteran has the, if they qualify for the choice program, and you do have to qualify, I mean, you have to live more than, I think it's 45 miles away from a veterans hospital or clinic to be able to use the choice program. But you should be able to walk in and throw down your Veterans Choice Program card, just like a Blue Cross Blue Shield card. And when the doctor's office scans it and runs it, the bill for that visit goes to the Veterans Administration. Boom. I mean, I don't know what that would cost. I really don't. I don't care. Because when you take that oath of enlistment, you sign everything up to and including your life to defend our freedoms. And folks, they don't make a lot of money. They really don't. When I enlisted in the military, when I was in E1, I made about $9,500 a year. Not even 10 grand a year. Not even. But they gave me a dorm to sleep in. They gave me a card that I just swiped for my meals. I didn't have to pay for food. I didn't have to pay for a place to live. I didn't have to pay for electricity. Now, that's not terrible. When my daughter was born, I was making a very suave $12,500 a year. Yeah, it's not a way to get rich. Okay, let's just put it that way. Let's just put it that way. So when these men and women need care, they should get it, and they should get it when they need it, not when some bureaucrat decides they can have it. And that's about enough of that. Now, we're going to get to something that angers me tremendously. Tremendously. And this was a late add-on to the show. and I have to thank my friend Southern Keeks for this because I did not catch this, and she posted it, and that's how I ended up seeing it. But I didn't have time to embellish it a lot with my own take, so this is hot take straight off the wire. With the rise of prenatal screening tests across Europe and the United States, the number of babies born with Down syndrome has significantly decreased. But few countries have come as close to eradicating Down syndrome births as Iceland. Since prenatal screening tests were introduced in Iceland in the early 2000s, the vast majority of women, and we're talking very close to 100%, who received a positive test for Down syndrome terminated their pregnancy. While the tests are optional, the government states that all expectant mothers must be informed about availability of screening tests, which reveal the likelihood of a child being born with Down syndrome. Around 80 to 85% of pregnant women choose to take the prenatal screening test, according to the University Hospital in Reykjavik. CBS News correspondent Elaine Quijano went to Iceland to investigate what's factoring into the high termination rates. Using an ultrasound, blood test, and the mother's age, the test, called the combination test, determines whether the fetus will have a chromosome abnormality, the most common of which results in Down syndrome. Children born with this genetic disorder have distinctive facial issues and a range of developmental issues. Many people born with Down syndrome can live full, healthy lives with an average lifespan of around 60 years. There are other countries that aren't lagging too far behind in Down syndrome termination rates. According to the most recent data, the United States has an estimated termination rate for Down syndrome of 67%. In France, it's 77%. And in Denmark, it's 98%. The law in Iceland permits abortion after 16 weeks if the fetus has a deformity, and Down syndrome is included in this category. With a population of around 330,000, Iceland has on average just 1 or 2 children born with Down syndrome per year, sometimes after their parents received inaccurate test results. In the United States, according to the National Down Syndrome Society, about 6,000 babies with Down syndrome are born each year. Babies born with Down syndrome are still being born in Iceland, said Hulda Hartardadur, head of the prenatal diagnosis unit at Landspítali University Hospital in Reykjavik, where around 70% of Icelandic children are born. Some were low risk in our screening tests, so we didn't find them in our screening. When Thordis Ingadóttir was pregnant with her 3rd child at the age of 40, she took the screening test. The results showed her chances of having a child with Down syndrome were very slim, odds of 1 in 1,600. However, the screening test is only 85% accurate. That year, 2009, 3 babies were born with Down syndrome in Iceland, including Ingadóttir's daughter, Augusta, who is now 7. According to her, 3 babies born with Down syndrome is quite more than usual. Normally, there are 2 in the last 5 years. Well, yeah, that would be a 50% increase, wouldn't it? Normally there's 2. Since the birth of her daughter, she's become an activist for the rights of people with Down syndrome. Good for her. As Augusta grows up, I hope that she will be fully integrated on her own terms in this society. That's my dream, she said. Isn't that the basic needs of life? What kind of society do you want to live in? Well, let's just stop there for a minute. I'd like to live in a society that doesn't murder people in the womb just because they're a little different. How about that for a society? What in the hell gives these people the right to diminish the life of somebody with Down syndrome? I mean, are we really trying to put a smile on the face of a type of eugenics? Here's geneticist Carrie Stephenson, the founder of Decode Genetics, a company that has studied nearly the entire Icelandic population's genomes, has a unique perspective on the advancement of medical technology. My understanding is that we've basically eradicated almost Down syndrome from our society, that there's hardly ever a child with Down syndrome in Iceland anymore, he said. So Quijano asked Stephenson, what does the 100% termination rate, you think, reflect about Icelandic society? He said it reflects a relatively heavy-handed genetic counseling, and I don't think that heavy-handed genetic counseling is desirable. You're having impact on decisions that are not medical in a way. Stephenson noted, I don't think that there's anything wrong with aspiring to have healthy children, but how far we go in seeking those goals is a fairly complicated decision. I don't think it's complicated at all. I really don't. Life is worth fighting for. Every single damn day. They try to do neutral counseling as much as possible, but some people would say that that's just offering a pointing of the test towards a certain direction. Indeed, more than 4 out of 5 pregnant women in Iceland opt for the prenatal screening test. For expectant mother Bergþóri Einsartadur, who chose to have the test, knowing that most women did, so helped her steer her decision. It was not pressure, but they told me that most women did it, she said. It did affect me, maybe a little bit. Over at University Hospital, Helga Sol Ólafsdóttir counsels women. That's a popular last name in Iceland, having that D-O-T-T-I-R on the end of it. I mean, every one of these names. That's interesting. I guess with 330,000 people, though, there's whatever. But they counsel women who have a pregnancy with a chromosomal abnormality. They speak to her when deciding whether to continue or end the pregnancy. Ólafsdóttir tells women who are wrestling with the decision or feelings of guilt. She says, this is your life, and you have the right to choose how your life will look. I don't buy it. I don't like it, I don't buy it, and I don't believe it. She showed Quijano a prayer card inscribed with the date and tiny footprints of a fetus that was terminated. Quijano noted, in America, I think some people would be confused about people calling this our child saying a prayer or saying goodbye or having a priest come in, because to them, abortion is murder. Now, Olaf's daughter responded, "We don't look at abortion as murder. We look at it as a thing we ended. We ended a possible life that may have had a huge complication." How about this? How about you ended a possible complication for a life that could have had a huge impact? They look at it as preventing suffering for the child and for the family. And they think that that's more right than seeing it as murder. It's disgusting. But who are we? Who are we to tell them what they should and shouldn't be doing, right? I'll tell you who we are. We're conservatives. We are small government, limited government, God-fearing, Constitution-loving, life-loving conservatives. We don't have room in our lives for hatred. We don't have room in our lives for bigotry. We understand our history. We don't always say that it's the right thing. Everybody who says that we need to have a discussion about race, but nobody really wants to have that discussion. Everybody wants to dictate the terms. I don't have time for that mess. When somebody wants to have a real discussion, I'm willing to sit down and have it. Because as somebody that is multiracial, I've seen the hate from both sides. It's about all we got for tonight, folks. It's about the top of the hour. Get ready for Jesse's POV coming up next. I believe Stafford Voice is going to be after that, and then America Off the Rails. Am I right, Rick?
That is correct. Actually, Jess has Rio from Madison Rising coming up next as a guest.
Sweet! Rio Height from Madison Rising with Jess on Jesse's POV next. Damn, that... Not fair. Way to go, Jess. Anyway, folks, do yourself a favor and stay here all night. Get your knowledge on with KLRN Radio. I'm the Grouch. If you like the show, tell your friends. If your friends like the show, you need new friends, but they and you are welcome every week right here with me. Thank you and God bless. We'll see you next week.
You and me, ain't that America? Something to see, baby. Ain't that